Yeah. Is this on? Yeah, it's on. We're going to get started. If everybody can take a seat, please. Which one am I clicking it to proceed, or are they? Okay. And which one is that? This one? Or this one, I guess. Yeah, and you'll like the land acknowledgement. Okay. Because it's great to file just for here to hear it. It's 9:02, so we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Rowdy crowd, keep it down. All right, welcome, everybody. It's really nice to see everybody here together. I'm getting some really weird feedback from that. Is it? Oh, it is. Okay. Try that. Do I have to turn it on or do you? Okay. Hello? Oh, that's way better. Thank you. All right. Welcome. Let's see if I can do this properly. There we go. Okay. My name is Jessica Morgan. I've had the pleasure of serving as BCIA chair for the last 2 years. Joining me this morning is BCIA CEO and Registrar JP Elson. You're hiding behind. Thank you. BCIA Vice Chair Rebecca Martin. Parliamentarian Rob Kupchenko. And moderator Brian Mazza. Next to Brian and kind of throughout the crowd, we also have BCIA staff, including Lorena Olson, Tess Caravete, Operations and Financial Coordinator, and our new Provincial PD Coordinator, Jasmine Wong, who you would have seen when you came in. And Holly is a contractor, I guess we can say, of BCIA, and she'll be taking some pictures of your lovely faces. I am the order of things here. The first thing I would like to do, we have the pleasure of being together on Earth Day. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and expressing great gratitude that today we are gathering into Kamloops to Secwepemc. As part of the larger Secwepemc. This area is known as the place where the rivers meet. Since time immemorial, the people of the confluence have recognized, respected, and stewarded a healthy life for all that call this place home, and have shared these responsibilities with the neighboring Emla to the south. As we are a provincial body in what is colonially called British Columbia, I would like to expand the acknowledgement to all Indigenous nations in whose territories we live and work. From the home of the Taku River Tlingit and Tahltan in the far northwest to the Ktunaxa people in the southeast region, we share the common value of respect for the earth and all that inhabit. We recognize that to be truly sustainable, the environment can't be siloed and compartmentalized. As was emphasized yesterday, and we know through our work, the land, the water, the air are all connected. We must remember and embrace the Indigenous worldview of all our relations. This includes meaningful relationships with Indigenous nations that are built on trust and shared learning, as well as relationships with each other, relationships with the territories that we call home, and relationships with all things that make these places so special. Thank you, Brock. Throughout the AGM, we will be referencing the AGM report, which is posted on the BCIA website on the homepage under news. We encourage you, if at all possible, to download the AGM report included in the box at the bottom of your screen for those online. There's a QR code available to download the report onto your mobile device found on every table has them. I would also like to point out to all BCIA registrants and guests that this meeting is being recorded. I would like to confirm that attendance at this hybrid AGM is eligible for the assigned professional development credits and qualifies as attendance as a provincial AGM, as is required of our articling registrants. So, some housekeeping items. I'll bring up Rob and Brian to go over these, and while they are on their way up here, venue housekeeping. The women's washroom is on this side. You have to go behind our staff. Men's washroom is on this side.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Rob Kuchenko. I'm the parliamentarian for this meeting. Good morning, everyone. I would like to go over a few housekeeping points before we begin the meeting. This is a business meeting, and as Jessica had pointed out, it's our first hybrid AGM. So for those of you online, we ask that you abstain from online chatter, greetings, and agreement comments that are not related to the business being discussed. The Q&A box, which you can select and open from the menus on the bottom of your screen, is restricted to the business-related questions and comments and directed to the presenters and presentation, discussion, and motions. There is a chat box which you can open from the selections at the bottom of your screen for the attendees to type a general comment or question. We will be following the Robert's Rules of Order. Motions and seconding of motions will be received from the floor or typed into the Q&A section, or the chair will direct when on a motion a seconder is required. And after a motion has been seconded, the chair will then call for discussion. For those online, discussion of a motion can be done by text only and in the Q&A section, and microphones are available on the floor for those registrants present. I think a microphone. Okay. Voting is done by show of hands on the floor and through the online poll. Only BCI registrants are allowed to vote. Guests, BCI students, non-members, please abstain from voting. And I will advise the room as to the results of the online vote, and the chair will determine whether the respective motion has been passed. And finally, I do want to advise that the point of order may only be raised if there appears to be a rule outlined in the current versions of Robert's rules that may have been broken. Okay. Thank you. Now, Brian.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Mazza. I'm going to be as your online moderator. I will be monitoring the Q&A sections and any of the discussion questions that might come up that need to be addressed to the podium. For questions received online, I'll be taking each question in order and read it out loud at the appropriate time. If there are several questions that might come up that can be amalgamated into one, I will do that and try to summarize it for clarity. So those will be the rules. On the floor, you'll be looking directly at the chair of the meeting to deal with the questions. And it's just online that I'll be interrupting the chair with those questions. Thank you. Yes.
BCIA's provincial board is responsible for strategic and professional direction of the Institute within the guidelines of the Professional Governance Act and the BCIA bylaws. I'd like to introduce the current 2022 2023 board. Myself as board chair from District 2. Jane Kerner, past president, District 2. Rebecca Martin, vice chair, District 1. Kirk Fair, also treasurer, District 3. Natasha Newman, District 1. Will Shaw from your hometown here, District 2. Warren Mills, District 3, and Yasmin Parkinson, District 3. Our lay board members over the last year, Aidan Wahula, Brock and Dean, Carla Corbett-Schiller, and Matthew Vole. Thank you to our registrant and lay board members for all of your hard work. I've been on the board a while and they are incredible to work with, and the amounts of discussion that we have and points of view that come to the table is just amazing. So thank you from me. I'd like to take a moment to recognize registrants that have passed away over the past year, which we are aware of. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember Werner Wagner, Jennifer Carmona, Bakshish Dosanjh, and Vic Wright. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 9:13. I'd like to draw your attention to 2 ministerial greetings that we have received from the government of BC. And I believe that's good.
George Heyman, Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy. I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you today from the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples and the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. And I also want to thank you so much for inviting me to provide greetings for the 2023 BC Institute of Agrologists Provincial Conference and Annual General Meeting. It's inspiring to see so many of you coming together to share your knowledge of the land and the environment, and to engage with Chief Dr. Robert Joseph and others like the Kamloops Secwépemc on how we can mitigate the impact of climate change on our environment. We have so much to learn from our Indigenous partners, because Indigenous communities have been disproportionately impacted by climate change. They rely so heavily on their natural environment. Sadly, too often our climate action strategies fail to respect Indigenous people's perspective or their participation at the decision-making level. And I think we all know this needs to change. A return to nature-based traditional approaches will help BC adapt to a changing climate and reduce future impacts. We look around and see a loss of habitat. We have concerns around food security and rising temperatures. These are all the direct result of not properly nurturing our planet and understanding how important it is to protect biodiversity and our natural resources. Our government continues to prioritize investments to support climate action, with $3.5 billion invested in Clean BC since 2019. We're investing to adapt to climate change and prevent, mitigate, and recover from climate disasters. We've just announced our new energy action framework that will help us meet our climate targets, as well as support new opportunities in clean energy, more electricity generation, and technologies. We're making good progress. By 2030, emissions from natural gas utilities will be cut nearly in half, and all new buildings in the province will be required to be zero carbon. 90% of all new vehicles sold in British Columbia will be zero emissions by law. Methane from oil and gas has continued to decrease significantly, putting us on track to exceed our 2025 target of 45% reduction, as well as meet our 75% by 2030 target. We've also recently invested more than $200 million in food security to ensure that people have better access to an increased supply of affordable local food. This funding will go to critical areas, including food processing, food affordability, and security. and will continue to invest to help communities reduce and manage climate risks through our climate adaptation strategy. Strong collaboration is absolutely vital to protect this beautiful place we call home. Government and the BCIA have a strong partnership. We know that cost and economic viability are significant barriers to adopting new solutions. That's why it's important for government to provide financial support to help sectors transition to a clean energy future. Your dedication to protecting the public interest and reducing the impacts of pollution and climate change is critical to the work of our government and our province. I want to thank you for the work that you do in many fields and industries that you support, and I hope you have an interesting, productive, and fun annual general meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pam Alexis, and I'm BC's Minister of Agriculture and Food. I'm delighted to be able to speak with you today from the territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people of Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations. Thank you to the BC Institute of Agrologists for the invitation. British Columbia is known for the high quality of food produced and grown here. With our supernatural terrain, diverse climate, and rich soil, BC produces a wider range of crops than many other parts of Canada and the world. And as agrologists, you play a key role in helping BC farmers and producers expand their food production and grow local economies. The extreme weather and global pandemic during the last few years haven't been easy, but with your professional advice and support, the province's agricultural sector remains in good hands through trying times. BC agrologists have supported farmers with care and expertise, ensuring the communities they serve are able to put their best foot forward. Ministry agrologists fulfill critical roles in the farming community, and each person brings a unique set of skills and dedication to making their respective sectors flourish. My ministry is proud of the work done by over 2,000 agrologists in the province, over 60 of whom are employed by the ministry, and all of whom are working with BC producers to secure a vibrant future for this province. By helping growers and businesses succeed, you are also helping support our farming families, communities, and our province's food security, both now and for future generations. I'd like to personally thank each of you for all of your hard work and dedication, and I look forward to furthering our work together to continue to support BC farmers and producers to deliver the food that feeds our families and helps drive our economy. Thank you.
That was nice. Little birdie told me it was 20 years ago this year that the Agrologists Act was amended to include the environmental sciences. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to invite Rob to confirm quorum and review a few items of importance for the attendees.
Okay, by the numbers, I just want to ask the moderator if people online have clear lines of communication, they can hear, they can texting.
Yes, we're clear. We have 282 participants online. Yeah, 279 attendees, registrant attendees.
279, okay. So 279 online attendees. And we have 82 people here. So I can confirm, Madam Chair, we have a quorum. Just for you information, a quorum consists of 5% of our membership, so we needed actually 95 or 94 registrants to attend. So I would remind students, guests, lay board, and lay committee members and other non-residents that they are not eligible to vote at this meeting. And when a vote is called, a polling window will appear on the screen for those online, and this poll will include the motion yes, no, and abstain buttons. To vote, click on the appropriate button. The system will automatically calculate the votes. The voting poll will remain open for 30 seconds, and during that time, the registrants present in the room shall vote by show of hands. Following the closing of the poll, the chair will be advised on the online vote results, and after consideration of the votes cast in the room, will announce whether a motion has been carried. And as I said, this meeting will be conducted in accordance with the rules, Robert's Rules of Order, and the rules of the meeting set out on pages 5 to 7 of the annual AGM report.
Please take a moment to review the draft AGM agenda appearing on the next 2 slides. If you haven't already, take a moment to download the AGM report. Copy of the draft AGM agenda appears on page 8 of the report. As a note of order, the president's report, CEO registrar report, deputy registrar report, professional development coordinators report, and committee reports, which are all found in the AGM report, do not require a motion to accept them. The minutes of this meeting will note that these reports have been received by the Institute. All questions respecting these reports will be taken near the end of this meeting. Are there any additions to the agenda? This item replaces number 17 on the agenda, which is other business. No. The motion put forward is to adopt the BCIA AGM agenda. Do I have someone to move this motion? Thanks, Jeff. And seconded. Oh, okay. Thank you, Kevin and Will. All right. Uh-oh. Okay. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Any online? Okay. If no further discussion, we'll open to the online vote for 30 seconds. And for those in the room, all in favor? Yes. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Is that the thumbs up? We're good. Thank you. Majority of those in the room have voted in favor, and those online have voted 100%. So you know, 99, 98. Consequently, the motion is carried. Sorry, Brian, did you?
Yeah, 1% abstention, 1 no. So
Okay.
just so you know.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. The majority of, oh, that's the last one. The draft 2022 AGM minutes are available on the website. You can also find them on pages 9 to 15 in the AGM report. I'd like to request a motion to accept the 2022 minutes as presented. Any amendments can be suggested during the discussion portion of this business. So, is there someone to make the motion? Thanks, Carl. Second. Thanks, Melissa. Any discussion? All right, just making sure she wasn't coming up this way.
No questions online.
I'll now open the vote online for 30 seconds. For those in the room, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. I'll get the online update.
We have in agreement 96%, 1% no, and 3% abstentions.
A motion is carried. I would like to begin my report by confirming that there will be an opportunity for questions regarding my report and all other reports near the end of the meeting. I'm not going to read it out to you because I don't have it in front of me. I also wouldn't do that anyways, because we're in a business meeting. Yeah, it's been a big year. September 1st was a huge milestone for us as far as practice rates. And it's been a lot of countless hours to get us to that position through our branches and committees. And I see many committee members in this room, and it's really nice to have people volunteer. Endless discussions and just great ideas across the rooms and the province. And I think everybody. Projects for the next year involve the review of the strategic plan, which is ongoing, introduction of staff and 2 more positions. And it's a huge time of change for the Institute, and I'm so happy to be part of it, and just very thankful for everybody that is a part of it, especially our staff. We've been every time something comes up, it's a hurdle, and we expect them to be mountains, and they are speed bumps instead of mountains, and we wouldn't be able to do that without the leadership of our staff. And so I thank you very much. I'd like to invite our CEO and registrar and in-house legal counsel, JP, to provide an overview of his report and the deputy registrar report found on pages 18 to 20.
I don't need that. How's that? Okay. Morning. Like an hour and a half left and we're done. So, 4 hours of sleep in 2 days is a little tough. Okay, I too have my report in the annual report. I'm not going to read it. It's pretty straightforward. And many of you in this room over in 2022 were involved with the achievements that we attained during that year, which is, as Jess has mentioned, probably the most important year in this profession since 1947, when the Institute was first commenced. So thank you for all of that. There are a couple slides that I do want to take you through, just give me an idea of where we're sitting. We're 1990, but this is as of December 31st. So when the minister said 2000, she's pretty close. Which is nice to see. This gives you the distribution of the different designations. It's nice to see that our first LAG is there. We're now 3, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is something that, as the word gets out, if the phone calls I'm receiving are any indication that designation is going to become quite significant going forward. Next one, that's our growth since 2013, which is pretty spectacular. Since 2017, where I started, we're up about 25, a little more than 25% in 6 years. We think that growth will not just continue, but accelerate over the next couple of years because of reserve practice. In a very, very individual beneficial way, the more registrants we have, the more resources we have to provide services to you and reduce, if not eliminate, well, I shouldn't say that, but we are very cognizant about dues. And the more registrants we have, the more resources we will have. And in that sense, we can be quite stable, which is good for everybody. So this is good news, and we'll continue. I think this would make us at worst 3rd largest in the country Quebec is running about 3,300, but their definition is significantly different. Alberta has more than this, but they have special categories in their oil and gas industry that we don't. But we are number 3 with a bullet. So we'll get there. Last one is that's the number of applications. And for this, there is only one person responsible for that, and that's not me, it's Lorena. And you can see the amount of work that she has gone through. And it's getting faster and faster. Lorena's office is usually, on years I worked with her, unlike my desk, very, empty and clean and efficient. You see it now, and you can't see the desk because of all the new applications, and you can see it there. Why that is? It's the most applications in history we've ever received, and I expect 23 to be even more than that. So that's where we are with that. Things are going well. The last couple of months, 2-3 months, have been a little bit more difficult for us because we were down a couple of employees. Very glad to welcome Jasmine, who is up there. She replaces Saya in the provincial PD coordinator aspect. And as just mentioned, Holly over there is we've contracted out all of our communications to her, which has been great. It also, the advantage of both of those, especially Holly, is that because it's fully remote, our lease was coming up and we were looking at having to get bigger space, and that's bigger cost. But with the remotes, we don't have to do that. So we just approved a 3-year extension of our lease in Langford at very reasonable rates, given what it would as compared to new space. So we're stable there as well. So we welcome to those two. We have their orientation starting next week in Langford. So we'll see how they feel at the end of the week. Yeah. It'll be fine, Jasmine. Yeah, it will. Yeah. So with that, I think I'm on this one as well. Business Rising, because it's easy because there isn't any. But it is something that we're supposed to mention at this. Takes us to Treasurer's Report, and with that, Mr. Kirk Fair, who has graciously and bravely over the past year agreed to serve in this very, very important role, and he has a bunch of information for him.
Thank you, JP. First, I'd like to start with thank you. The president or the chair and the CEO have already mentioned it, but the BCI staff work really, really hard for us, and we see that. And I want to thank them all for their support to our profession. As treasurer, I work closely with the financial officers. So I wanted to take a moment to do a special thank you to Saya. Saya, you'll sure you remember her kind. If you've taken any online PD, you've seen her kind face and her helpfulness and her professionalism. And we've all really appreciated that. And I got to work closely with her. And so I miss her work here. But I also want to acknowledge that Tess has now stepped into the role with Saya's departure. She was able to take an opportunity that was closer to home. So we congratulate her and wish her the best, but sadly miss her. And I want to thank Tess for stepping in. Tess, it's been really great working with you for the last 4 months. I want to acknowledge all the hard work you've done. It's been incredible. Thanks so much for your candidness, your professionalism, your hand holding. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Tess. But I want to mention first off the hop that even though all this hard work has been done, we do not have an audited financial report to present to you today. That is one of the key deliverables for an AGM, and we've missed it. So the audit's not done. So you'll see at the end of the meeting, we're going to be adjourning to meet again at a later date. That's because as part of our bylaws, we have to have this presented to you, have your feedback. So we're going to adjourn and have it at a later date. So we're looking for a to be continued at the end of this. I just want to mention that as I did that is required by our bylaws to have this completed. And also that we benefit from your review and your critique. And frankly, you deserve to know that your dues are being used appropriately. So we will be having that meeting at a later date. Back in March, you'll have received an online vote to approve Paget as our auditors. I'm sure you recall that that vote passed, and Paget is currently working on our audit. So when that audit is complete, the financial report will be made available online for your review and comment. There will also be an online meeting where I will present the audit report to you, and you'll have a chance to give feedback in that venue as well. So there's 2 opportunities for you to review and provide feedback. So we expect the report in early June, and are targeting the end of June for our continuation of this meeting. Moving forward, BCIA will be contracting out our bookkeeping services so that this situation will never happen again. And I want to thank you all for your patience on this. And that was quite a bit. So I want to take a pause here. First, I'll mention that there is some information we're going to share with you. It's here on the screen. I will be giving you our financial position at the end of the year. I'll also be talking about our bank statements, the branch financials, and an appointment of the auditors for fiscal year 2023. So with that, is there any questions at this moment? Yes, Carl.
I'm concerned about whose mistake was it in the delivery of the financials? Were we late in getting information deposited, or were they delayed because of tax season?
Yeah. There's 3 main reasons that some of the challenges that we faced and we weren't able quite to meet. One was staffing. With Saya's departure, Tess had to step in and pick up, and so it's a staffing issue. Also, recently the federal government changed how auditing is done for nonprofits, and those changes resulted in 30% more work, 30% more time, 30% more cost. So those are 2 of the key ones. Also, our AGM a little bit earlier this year, so a bit adds to the time crunch. Thanks, Carl.
Excuse me, our online participants can't hear if you stand up and ask a question. Please go to the microphone and pose your question to the chair, please. Thank you.
Oh, is there any more questions on this, or we can move on? Anything on the?
Can we get the, Carl, can you repeat the question again and possibly, I think they heard the answers, but not the question.
Yeah, the question is quite simple. It was, why were we delayed in getting our financials this year? I'm not concerned about it. It was just, what was the process? Why did we miss the target? No more.
That's good, Brian. Okay. Not seeing any other questions. So here you can see our financial position at the end of the year. So in the bank statement, you'll see that we have 485,000 in the bank. 324,000 of that is deferred revenue. So if you subtract the 2, we're looking at about 160 sitting in the bank, and then another combined of 575,000 in GICs, giving us a current total assets of about $1 million at the end of the year. These next 2 slides, we're going to go through our revenues and our expenses. It's a pretty easy story to tell. We are growing, revenues are up. We are growing, expenses are up. So you'll see how the growth in our profession is leading to, of course, more annual fees. You can see how The Indigenous awareness training is now wrapping up for level 1, so our revenues are a bit lower for that. And I think it's fairly straightforward, but I'll give you a moment to soak it up. My head's too big? Is that what you're telling me? So here we'll take a look at the expenses. So I'll remind you that these are our budgeted expenses. So these aren't audited final numbers. This is what the board has budgeted. So you'll see that we're moving out of COVID now. So a lot of our expenses are coming up. Also, we're facing the same challenge everyone is. Travel is more expensive, hotels are more expensive, inflation is everywhere. But you can start to see where our committees and working groups are doing a lot of work for us. Yeah, generally things are, we're a bigger organization. Any questions on expenses? Yeah, please.
So just looking at the budget with expenses for 2023, we're seeing an increase in overall membership and a decrease in the total PD and member services from 163.5 to 105.850. And I'm just curious why that would go down if we're seeing an increase in membership and requirements for PD.
Thank you for the question. So if we're back in 2022, we're dealing more with the online stuff, right? Which is a lot cheaper for us to put on. Now we're moving back into in-person, which is a little bit more expensive. I think that helps to explain part of it. No, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much. I did get that wrong. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that, but I can get back to you. Thank you very much.
We
Yeah.
have some online questions.
I can say it to Kirk, or I can do it. We do allocate more to each branch per person as well. So this is the provincial. So does this reflect what the branches get, or is this out of provincial? Okay. It might, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Kirk, we have some online questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
First one has to do with sponsorship, and they noted there was some new sponsors shown on the screen, or you had mentioned them. And the question is, as a regulatory body, are we allowed to accept sponsorships?
The sponsorship is actually, there's two aspects to it. One, we do get sponsors for our, for this weekend. But most significantly in 22, and very happily, we signed a service agreement with IAF where we were engaged to be one of service delivery or training delivery. Some of you may have been to some of the webinars on that. They have actually renewed that for us yesterday in a meeting with the new CEO. They're quite happy. We're very happy to be working with them. And part of that was a sponsorship for this year's event that we're at right now. So yes, we are in that sense allowed under the PGA to accept sponsorships. And on the other question, what we'll do, that number is a total of a section of the budget with 5 or 6 different lines in it. Before the end of this meeting, I'll come back and give you the lines, and that should explain where that number comes from. Okay. Yes.
Good. And there's more questions. So
Okay.
Brandon McCarr has asked the question about communications expenses. They're substantially less. Can you tell us why?
Because we did most of our communications in the last couple of years online on Facebook posts and boosting posts, which are significantly cheaper than, you know, taking out ads in newspapers and things like that. So we've saved a significant amount of money over the last couple of years on those communications. Now, with a new communications person, Holly, we'll certainly look at that. I've seen some of the numbers, and there is in the annual report, there is a little chart from our previous communications person showing you the extent of the distribution of the information and the exposure we're getting on our social media, which is really, really quite impressive. So we're going to continue with that. So that's where that is.
Thank you. One more from James Sherwood, asking about the number of FTEs we have in the office, and were they the reason for a salary bump, or is it based on just the an incremental increase in salaries?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kirk. No, I'm just kidding. A couple of things on that. FTEs currently we have, like as of today, we're down to 3 FTEs. However, on Monday, Jasmine joins us full-time, so that'll be our 4th. She'll be with us in Langford next week for an onboarding training. And then she'll be fully remote out of, I think she's out of Vernon. Yes, Vernon. Holly is not counted as an FTE, as she is a contractor, and she's out of Prince George. The other, at least one additional FTE will be added this year. The board, we're still struggling with a proper job description, a combination of deputy registrar, compliance officer, and a few other aspects, but that'll be posted again in a few weeks or months on that. But before the end of this year, we will have a 5th ATE FTE. It would be great if we could find somebody in the Victoria area, because it is one of those things that at least a couple days a week in the office with the rest of us would be beneficial. But as you know, at least in the Victoria area in Vancouver, the housing crisis is quite severe. And I don't think we can offer enough of salary to justify somebody actually moving there and encountering the higher housing costs. So that would be great if somebody's already there. If you know of anybody, when it comes out, send them our way. But we fully expect that'll be fully remote as well.
Okay, there's more. We had an online comment from Millie just asking us if we could zoom in on some of these, which our technician has done whenever possible. So thank you, Millie, for the, if you can't read the type for the people online, we can zoom in a little closer for you. So just keep doing that. Next question is from Michael Stephen, and asking about what goes into the advertising revenue?
What goes into it?
Yeah, what is in there?
If you'd like to advertise to the BCIA, you can reach out to the staff.
No, the actual revenue. What? Yeah.
Most of it is employment listings that we were historically provided for free, including to the government. We have stopped the free aspect of it. I think we're charging what now, $200 a posting for that. I know the planners charge $6, but we didn't want to go from 0 to 6 in one stop. But that's where most of that comes from.
Okay, thank you. The age-old question has come up with $500,000 in GICs. Are we expecting more income from this source as we reinvest the monies? Looks like we're only getting a little better than 1% currently.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
775 as of today.
Yeah, it's a much better interest rate today than it was.
I think we're up from 1 to 4%.
4%
we're getting now.
Oh,
Sorry, well, Jeff Hughes, Games Fraser Valley Branch, BCIA AGM. Just a question about the GICs. So while we're on the topic, I'm a board member on a nonprofit in the Fraser Valley, and we have money that we keep in GICs, and our board has been very conscious of, trying to utilize, because that money comes to us for projects. We have to be careful of what the funding agency says in terms of using it, but we've been trying to generate as much revenue from that sort of held money. So I know that some of the money that we hold in our GICs has to be liquid, but is there some portion of it that can be invested in slightly higher investment? No, so it has to be in GICs.
Well,
And is it in a rotating?
Yes.
So that it's some of it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or is it all short term?
short term. If I may, the board passed an investment policy about 4 years ago, which the name is kind of a misnomer because the policy is you're allowed to risk nothing. So, because if we would have invested in, crypto, we would have been great for about a day. But no, we're not allowed. So we have a policy on that is extremely conservative, intentionally so. We usually, because that we go no more than a year at a time, so we can take advantage. That's what happened this time. We had most of our mature just as the interest rates were going up. So we got the benefit of that. Currently, we have GICs of about 775, and I think it's about 4% as opposed to 1% a year or so ago. So that's what we're doing. But I mean, if you want us, it's your money. If you want us to buy crypto, okay.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
to the mic for the online audience.
I don't want you buying crypto. I just wondered whether you're in a situation where you're doing 6 months, a year, or 2
Yeah, we
years.
no more than a year.
But if you don't if you have a 2-year cashable,
Yeah.
why can't you go 2-year cashable? Because the 2-year interest rates actually is 3-year interest rate.
Well, we actually our two existing ones that you saw on a previous slide that I think was 575. We were able to take them out early and reinvest them and add some extra money. And that's how we got to 775. And the reason we did that is that they would give us a higher rate.
Yeah.
So we do that. I mean, we have biannual meetings with our bank advisor, and we rely quite heavily on their advice on that.
I know we're not a nonprofit, but the idea for us with the nonprofit is that this is going to give us things that we can buy that the funding agencies won't pay for. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to make mention to the online audience to pose their questions through the Q&A chat and not the general chat line, please.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And to your question earlier about the difference in the PD costs going down, I was reminded that that's associated as well with the Indigenous training that's wrapping up. So our expenses are down for the Indigenous training because now we've all gotten it. So that's the difference there. And thanks again for the question. Another one, Brian?
More online. Emily asked, could you remind us what types of activities go into other services and provinces?
Yeah, that other services and projects, that's typically our consulting fees. So our HR consultant, our practice areas consulting, things of that nature.
Thank you. Another just response regarding GICs is how about investing in non-liquid assets such as real estate, for example?
Well, we would have to look at changing our financial investment policy.
And right now, that is it for online questions.
Okay. So here are our branch financials. So you'll see in the first column there, the account at the end of December, at the end of the year. That's what the branches had for each of their accounts. And then their 2022 allocations. And then the final column shows the differences in expenses or net revenue that the branch experienced over the year. And now I'd like to make a motion to appoint our auditors for 2023. So we sent out a request for proposal to 3 audit firms that work in BC. And based on those responses, we are recommending BDO as our auditors for 2023. So I'd like to make that motion.
Excuse, we had one late question come, a couple of late questions come in.
Okay,
I don't know where to put it in now that you've actually made the motion. It's regarding the financial statements. Okay,
okay, go
is
ahead,
this an
Brian.
appropriate time? Would you continue taking questions on the financials, please?
Love to, Brian.
Okay. Question is regarding are all BCIA GIC investments in one bank, or are they distributed across a number of firms,
They're all with one bank.
all with one bank? Care to name the bank?
It's RBC.
RBC. Okay. Other question from Michael Stephen. Revenue for Indigenous training. What was the cost of that? We see the revenue, but what was the cost against that training?
That would have been a part of the total PD. I don't have that number. We was net 0, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So what we paid out to have the training provided, we also charged our registrants. So we made no money on it.
Okay, one more question from Becky Brown. Non-financial or in future, in a brief summary of accomplishments highlights presented by the chair and registrar would be very nice. In addition, like a request for questions would be appreciated ahead of time. It might help. This would tie the reports to the meeting nicely. And we just wanted to communicate that request to the executive. So give that opportunity ahead of time. It's a possibility.
Thank you, Brian. We have a
Thank you,
question on the
Becky.
floor.
Maureen Granger. So with the investment at RBC, are we looking to do ethical investing or looking to companies that do ethical investments, particularly with an Indigenous commitment? Is that something that BCIA is looking at?
That's not currently part of our policy, but it is something we can bring up. Thank you. Are we good online, Brian?
Well, we're still getting questions through the chat line, and this one back to RBC, why RBC? Because they don't align with BCI values. I think that's a political statement, but I made it anyway on their behalf. But I remind you to please use the Q&A line for us. And that's it, unless you want to comment on that.
I do not. Thank you. I would now like to motion again BDO as our financial auditors for 2023. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Warren. We have Warren Mills as seconder. Is there any discussion? Yeah, sorry.
No discussion online yet.
There's no discussion. We'll open the vote for 30 seconds online. And for those in the room, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None noted.
Numbers are still coming in.
That's right.
Like 90% in favor. 1% no, and a couple of abstentions.
Thank you. A majority of those in the room and online have voted in favor. The motion is carried. Back to you.
Back to you.
I think you did them already.
Is there any further questions? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kirk. Now back down. Okay. We now move into the committee, working group and branch reports.
Jessica,
Yeah,
I hate to interrupt you, but we keep getting late questions.
okay,
Are you willing to take them?
yes.
And probably come back to Kirk. We have a political statement about RBC, and I don't think I'm gonna further it. We will hold it on and
it's-
pass it on to you.
Yeah, I'm aware of that,
Yeah.
the discussion, and we will action item to executive and committee and council to review our policy to ensure that we're investing in line with BCIA's values.
And the other question is, why did we change from the current auditor to a new auditor?
We were formerly with KPMG, and there's a little bit of history that I'll let the treasurer speak to because I'm not entirely aware of it.
So you'll remember this time last year, KPMG was our auditor. Unfortunately, they let us know right before the AGM that they would not be our auditor. So last year, we didn't have an opportunity to present to our registrants a recommendation for an auditor. So we tabled that, and that's why you saw in March an opportunity to vote on Paget Business Services as our auditor for 2022. Then the board sent out a request for proposal to 3 firms that do auditing in BC. And based on those responses, the board recommended BDO. It was the most professional response we had. And the cost that they suggested was in line with what we saw from the other ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee working group and branch report section is on page 21 of the AGM report. They won't be formally presented here at this time, but noted as accepted. If anyone has any questions on these reports, please direct them during the upcoming questions from the floor section. I'd like to take the time to identify current standing committees and their chairs. Audit and Practice Review Committee. Juana has stepped down from chair, and Jeff Mercer, who's in the room, thanks Jeff, has stepped up as chair. Governance Committee, Rob Kupchenko. Investigations Committee, Don Rugg. Nominations Committee, George Geldert. Credentials Committee, Martin Sills. Discipline Hearing Committee had no activity during 2022. I'd like to acknowledge our 2 working groups. Communications Working Group, formerly chaired by Aaron Croquet. Indigenous Awareness Training Level 2, chaired by our lay Councillor Brock. I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to all committees and working group members for their tireless help and work in helping BCIA operate and move forward. We would especially like to thank a few outgoing members, including Juana Enoch with Audit and Professional Practice Committee, Aaron Croquet with the Communications Working Group, and Dave Struthers with the Governance Committee. Thank you very much. We are always looking for volunteers to sit on committees. If you have any interest, we do have a nominations committee. in line with the Professional Governance Act. You can contact the committee or a head office if you're interested in knowing more. George is conveniently wearing a very beautiful purple shirt. So he's right there if you got any questions. Our institute is full of doers, and committees are a great place to do the things. And I've served on credentials committee before counselors got booted out of the committees. It's a wonderful learning experience, and you'll learn a lot about yourself professionally and personally being on a committee, and very rewarding experience. There were no resolutions submitted for consideration at this meeting. All right, are there any questions from sorry, Brian, this is you. This is your line.
You can say it, but at this time, we're just asking for any questions regarding the reports from the various committees. If you have a question, please come to the microphone or type it into the Q&A, and we have one already on the Q&A. It says kudos to the technical team on a clear audio, visual, and seamless interaction for this hybrid meeting. So there you go. Thank you for
That's
that
great.
comment.
Anything from the floor?
No questions from the floor on the committee? Excellent. Just it's all yours.
Okay. This year, there was only one vacant position that came up for District 3. One nomination was received from the nominations committee on the incumbent board member, Warren Mills, who was acclaimed into that position for a 3-year term. Next year, each electoral district will have vacant positions open for elections. So introduction of your 2022-2023 council. The only change to our board from the existing structure is we do have an outgoing lay committee member, or sorry, lay counselor, Matt Voll. He's not here today, which is part of the reason he's had to step down. His law practice is very successful, and we have to say goodbye to him because he doesn't have as much time as he used to. We currently await appointment of his replacement by the government of BC. We would like to acknowledge the tremendous contributions of our lay board members, including Matt Voll, also Jane Kerner, who's been just endless supplies of knowledge for us, and we will have to say goodbye to her. I will note that because we will not be formally adjourning this meeting, the new council structure will commence at the formal adjournment once we receive our financial audited statements. Would the board mind standing up and just giving a little wave? And Aiden's in Mexico, because why not? There they are. Yep. Okay. Go back. There we go. Jane, would you mind coming up for a minute? And just a side note, before the board runs away after the AGM, I'd like to get a picture of everybody. So come up here afterwards, please. I'd like to present this as a very thank you gift to Jane. Here.
You know what? It's been a real pleasure serving with this board for the last 6 years, and your new team is great. They work together well. They're going to take you far. But you know, I'm really upset that they're letting me go because I just barely learned how to put my hand up on the Zoom. So whatever. You'll be in good hands. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jade. Okay, 2024 is the year for the 5th BC Land Summit. BCIA is a Land Summit partner alongside the Appraisal Institute of Canada in BC, the BC Society of Landscape Architects, the Planning Institute of BC, and the Real Estate Institute of BC. Next year, the location is in Nanaimo, May 8th to 12th. Going to give you guys some time to write this down because there's a few pens out. So that is part of the Land Summit, and the AGM will be held there as well, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah. So we look forward to welcoming you. We have a video for it, right?
Nanaimo. It all starts here.
I missed something.
Jessica,
Yes.
more questions from the late
About the video?
questions.
The video?
No, well, one pertains, I'll go on the line. There's one about the video. Thank you about the video, but the question was online from Christina Lapointe. How is the location of the AGMs determined? And I know next year it's a little different.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And there's more questions after this.
Yeah, I'll address that one. So we used to, before COVID, pre-COVID, we had a rotating schedule for AGMs and conferences to make sure that we had fair distribution throughout the province. So kind of there, I think there was a list, but it was, we have 8 branches. So every 8 years, essentially, it should come to your branch. Obviously, there's a challenge for northern branches where your geographical distribution is a lot bigger. So, our intention is to go back to that rotation. Last year, the year before was supposed to be at some peaks. So that was this branch's AGM, or conference opportunity. So we wanted to bring that back and bring back that rotation schedule. The Land Summit is every 5 years, 4, 5. So that kind of throws off our rotation being part of that, but just, yeah, so it's the intention is to be able to make them accessible to everybody in the province as much as possible.
Okay, we have a question for our registrar CEO. How many complaints have we received regarding duty to report?
In 2022, which is the focus of this report, 0. However, we've received 1 in 2023, which is in the very preliminary stages. Although we get a lot of phone calls. And I try to answer best I can. The duty report, for anybody that was at Kate Haynes things yesterday, is a new concept which is quite complex. There is no precedent of anything for us to rely on to make decisions. That will come with time. But as of right now, it's 1. I expect more this year. We have 2 other complaints that have come in 2023, which is 3 more than we've received in the last 3 years combined. That's one of the things that OSBG was aware of that with reserve practice, it's almost a given that the number of complaints is going to go up. And then you add in this duty to report, it's going to go up. So it is still manageable within our own office. If it gets to the point, I know the engineers, although they have 40,000 engineers, you can never have too many, I guess. They have a team, I think it's 8 lawyers on staff to deal with the number of complaints that they get. Right now, we're still fine. We do have a budget line to engage outside counsel should we need it, but we haven't had to use that line since I've been here. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. One more note from Martin Sills, and I don't believe it was mentioned that Serena Black is the new chair of the Communications Working Group. So
Well, we appointed her yesterday or on Thursday.
there you
on our
go,
meeting,
brand new.
so.
Look at that,
Thank you.
just for the audience.
Yes. Have we confirmed 2025 location? Okay.
Oh, okay. For 2025, for those that were in Penticton last year, we partnered with the technicians, ASTTBC, Applied Science Technologists and Technicians of British Columbia. It's early. I probably can't do that later tonight, but it went really well. I thought it certainly cut the workload on our staff to work with a partner. And we really noticed it this year when we didn't have a partner and we were down 2 FTEs, how much work this actually is. And it's funny with this type of work, if everything goes well and like nobody dies, everybody thinks, well, that was easy. What did they do? That's a sign that of how much work you actually put into when it looks smooth and easy. For 2025, the technicians have requested to partner with us again. 2024, we're not, that wasn't a possibility because of the land summit, and we already have partners on that. So we are, when we talk about the rotation that year is for Kootenay boundary. So right now we're looking at, do we go to Creston, Cranbrook, or Nelson? But the decision hasn't been made yet. We want to get through this. But we will probably in the next 6 months or so get more serious about that, do a site visit of them and take it from there. We do want to, the board talked about it in the meeting, we do want to engage with the Kootenay executive before we make any decisions about where to go in there, but we're pretty committed to going to Kootenay boundary in 25.
I really appreciate the locations, bringing my mountain bike to all of these places. Okay, any other online? Okay. Oh. Yeah, I heard that. There's a lot of names up here, hey? So these are newly minted professional agrologists. They are also on pages 43 to 46 of your report. Just gonna put this in here and stop breathing into it. Or not. Formal recognitions and professional oaths are now done at branch AGM level. I'd like to congratulate all of our newly minted PAGs and TAGs. It's just me. I didn't want to bang it around. Thank you. If you are a newly minted PAG or TAG, just a reminder that your signed oath must be returned to the BCIA office to keep on file. A couple more slides. I'm not going to read off everyone's name, but please take a moment to look through the list. For our first time ever, we have welcomed our first LLAs. These new registrants bring our growth in registrants over the past 6 years to approximately 25%. We anticipate that this growth will continue and welcome all new registrants to this vibrant, growing profession. So congratulations. We are proud to acknowledge 25 and 50-year members. Cool. Yep. Yeah, they are. So apparently we have some among us as well, and would like to present some recognition to Bruce Hutman and Jacqueline Rasmussen. If you are here, would you like to come accept? Did Bruce make it today? I saw his name tag out there, but I don't know if he's here. Okay.
Did I graciously accept it on his behalf?
We'll find him. Are there any other questions that registrants would like to discuss at this time? Yeah, we'll just go to the microphone, please.
I'm just curious on the percentage of applicants or current members that have two designations, and I'm one of them, have my PAG and my RP bio. I really enjoy this institution, but with the change in the areas of practice or your practice areas, I'm just curious if there's like liability or risk by keeping both of them.
It's a good question for a registrar. I could try, but
Under the PGA, regardless of how many designations you have, you are only allowed to practice in an area on which you are competent. So from a liability point of view, it would only be of concern if you practiced in something you weren't competent in and something bad happened. So you're okay that way. Yeah.
I chatted actually with Kate Haynes about this yesterday, and she held her RP bio prior to becoming superintendent. And she said at that time she didn't need it. They didn't have right to title, but now that they do, she said a lot of people are actually starting to be dually registered. And often it's for self-reassurance because it might not be clear to them if they should be registered. So I think the numbers of dual registrants is, I can't speak to it. We do ask that people let us know when they apply, if they have another registration somewhere. So, but as far as the numbers go, we can find out, but I don't think we have it off the top of our head. Yasmin.
That was gonna be my question.
Oh,
What was, if we knew roughly how many people or what percentage had more than one,
I don't,
one designation?
yeah, I'm not sure if we can pull that up right now, but we can find out. Probably maybe next year's report, we can include that. Any online? Should I wait a minute?
Online persons, you need to pose your questions now.
This
or
is your
forever
last
hold your
chance.
peace.
Yep.
We have one question.
Okay.
Emily is asking, is it possible to comment on how BCIA is working with the PSA and PAA? Those are the government associations, professional associations, to ensure government hiring is keeping up with new BCIA categories.
Good question, and it's an ongoing thing. I did brief the negotiating team of the PSA before they signed their recent contract with the government on that, which was quite useful. We're also part of what's called under the PAGA. There is a group called the Provincial Advisory Council, which consists of the CEOs of the PGA regulatory bodies and a representative of any and all ministries which employ any of those registrants, that profession. That meets on a quarterly basis. That's good in theory. that the part of that group's mandate was to ensure that the ministries are fully informed as to the developments in the PGA and the possible effects it may have on their ministries. But that was the theory. That does not appear to be the practice. I get a lot of phone calls from provincial government employees saying, I've just been told about this, you know. Well, one, you should read the stuff that we send and post, but that's a different question. But the government itself, for whatever reason, and it's none of, I don't think it's our business as to why, but have been slow in trickling down the information with respect to what this new thing means. It's not completely surprising in the sense that it's a very complex, dramatic, positive change. And it's a matter of education, not just of our own registrants and people that should be registered, but also of the ministries themselves. I have a session booked, I think it's Wednesday afternoon, with the Ministry of Agriculture people, which really surprised me when I got a call a couple of weeks ago and they said, well, what's all this about? We don't know anything. Oh, okay. So that's what we do have sessions that we hold. If anybody in any ministry, you run into this, or if you run into a supervisor that doesn't seem to know or even understand or even know about it, give me a call. Well, I will call them and we'll set up some sort of session. We have been waiting. We've requested a meeting with the new Minister of Agriculture, but we requested that in end of November. And both ourselves and the OSPG itself has been pushing because they would be with us at that meeting. But we do not have a meeting set with her as of yet, but we're still pushing. But it is something in your ministries, if you run into somebody that doesn't seem to understand, and I would run into a couple that don't want to understand, give me a call and then we'll take it from there. Hopefully that helps.
Anything else?
Just no further questions at this time from the
Okay.
online audience.
I'd like to make a note for online and in person. This should say other questions, not business.
Yes, they're a little, it's slower coming in online, so I do apologize for keep interrupting. We have another question from Barb Oakey. Do we have an idea how many GU government employees may be practicing within the reserve practice? And maybe they should be in the PA and registered with BCIA. Do we have any knowledge of that?
No knowledge at this time.
We don't know that number because many of them were not required to be registered with us until September 1st. And thus we had no way of tracking them. But again, by the number of phone calls that we receive, we think there's a lot of people out there, not just in ag, but also especially in environment. Some of the private consultants that now have to be registered or eventually will be forced to stop providing services. But again, nobody had to track them either. So we figure it's a 2 to 3 year process before we've hunted down these people. Well, sorry. We have identified the lack of education and knowledge with respect to what's out there. And we were going to gently invite them into our group. That's what I meant to say.
And the way JP says, come join us, we're fun. We have a question from the floor.
Yes, thank you. My name is Evelyn Walterson, PAG Vancouver branch. I don't really have a question. I want to share an email that I received from somebody recently. I'm a soil scientist and often work in supporting land use planning decisions, and we are land people, as well as environmental people, of course. And I received an email from Joan Sawicki. For those of you who don't know Joan, she was a Burnaby councillor for many, many years and eventually became a member of the Legislative Assembly, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and eventually the Minister of Environment, Lands and Parks, I think it was at the time in the 1990s. She and her husband, who passed away in 2013, were quite instrumental in establishing the ALR. And I don't know if any of you can remember Many of you probably weren't even around when that happened, but April 18th was the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the ALR. And I wanted to share part of her email with you if you've got time for that. Joan's a fun woman, actually. And she starts off with 50 years, yikes. Yes, there is much to celebrate, and we need to do that. First and foremost, it is amazing that after 50 years, the ALR is still here and still the most successful agricultural land preservation program in North America. And in fact, BC is often contacted by other jurisdictions in North America to talk about how the ALR works. While detractors and challengers remain, the ALR retains strong public and farmer support, and for 50 years it has done exactly what it was intended to do, protect the lands that can grow food. She says, and Joan and I and another agrologist, Wendy Holm, worked on the Site C project, and food security in that project was a big topic of conversation. Joan writes, climate change has finally brought food security to the fore as a top of mind issue. And we talked about that earlier as well. While there are many good food related things happening in communities throughout the province, it has become too easy to take the ALR for granted. There is a whole generation, including most decision makers, who have no memory of BC without the ALR. And this is really why I'm talking to you today, is because she has some asks. She's saying to us, what I'm asking of you in this email is to use whatever contacts and mechanisms you have to deliver whatever messages you choose, whether to government, professional associations, organized agriculture, local media, or friends and family. You all know this issue very well. And this is my ask to this group and to BCIA in general. I know we can't advocate about the ALR, but I think it would be very helpful if we could bring this constantly to public attention. There's a bunch more here. She finishes off with, feel free to contact me if you wish to talk about it. And same with me, you can talk to me anytime about it. Best wishes to you all, and thank you, Joan.
Thanks. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know about you guys, but wearing this around, a lot of people have been asking me, what is an agrologist? And I think it's a really great time to be talking more about what we are and what we do, and be proud of what we are and what we do. So just kind of like that summarized, and yeah, we're the future.
Jessica, one more question.
Yep.
Or comment from our,
I was trying not to make that
online
contact
audience.
with you, but okay.
I know you. Parashar Mala has a suggestion for awareness regarding reserved rights to practice. Are we considering employing more advertising in the media and relevant publications to contact these people that, and there's been some comments about the term hunted down.
Okay.
You never remember.
There is budget for outreach and recruitment, and a big part of the compliance officer role will be getting out there and ensuring people understand and know what BCIA is and what regulated practice is. So that's a large role of the new full-time employee that we will have.
These questions are coming in late because the one triggers another. A comment back regarding the ALR, suggesting that someone might invite Joan to put on a PD webinar or a podcast regarding the ALR. That might be an option. So we'll just throw that out there, and need to respond to it. But we do have another question from a registrant.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, yeah.
Joan lives in Stewie, which is in the upper Bella Coola Valley, so her traveling expenses would be quite significant, but I'm sure she would agree to talk to our group.
Yeah. The communications working group has a few ideas and of which is podcasts. And that would be a great one, a great first one.
This is a topic that hasn't come up, but it's on the back of a lot of people's minds. And Michael is asking if we could clarify a registrant's ability to advocate. I know it's laid out in the PGA regarding the regulator. What can individuals do that the institute cannot?
You have to be very, very careful. The restriction against advocacy is only on the regulatory bodies. However, the code of ethics, our new code of ethics, well, a couple of years ago, remember, is now identical with all of the other PGA regulatory bodies. And one of maybe the most significant aspect of that is once we go to regulation of firms, the firms that employ you, including the government, will be bound by that code of ethics as well. That's part of the regulation of firms. But as to personal advocacy, there is no restriction from the PGA on you as a registrant of BCIA, but there is from your code of ethics. As I said, they are identical, but we were allowed to add additional things as long as we had the foundations were identical. And what we added, there's a couple paragraphs in there. I don't know it off the top of my head. However, you know, I wrote it. But I explained it this way. What happens in Vegas no longer stays in Vegas. Once you sign that code of ethics, including your social media, that's what it's aimed at. So you could certainly take a position, advocate for some issue. If you presented it or presented yourself as speaking on behalf of the BCIA, you'll get a call from me pretty quick. And keep in mind now that you are bound by the code of ethics on many things, including accurate information, tact, decorum, reasonableness. You know, don't be stupid online. You can do it at home, but so that's where we're at. The only way to avoid it is to not do anything, but that's not realistic. But just be cognizant that you are always a agrologist, whether you're awake, whether you're in Mexico, you're always an agrologist, and you're accountable for your actions and your statements. So that's where we're at on that one.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. As you know, under our new bylaws, the treasurer and vice president positions are elected from the 7 registrant councillors. Council is pleased to announce that Kirk Fair was elected as the treasurer and Rebecca Martin as vice chair. Rebecca will advance to the position of chair upon the official adjournment of this meeting. I would ask her to join us and give a few words. You want it in here?
Oh,
Let's see. Okay.
wow.
The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. It's been a few years since I've stood in front of a crowd like this. It's a little intimidating. I'm actually going to put this. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Rebecca Martin. I live in Prince George. I've been practicing in contaminated sites and doing waste discharge authorizations for the past 20 years. I've been on the board since 2017. JP and I actually started together. So it truly is my honor to be requested by the board to take the position of chair. I didn't necessarily believe in myself, but they think that I can do this job, and I'm very honored. We've climbed a very steep mountain the last 6 years. The climb's not over, but we're at a plateau now, and we have a lot of work to do. We have reconciliation. We have imminent growth. We have practice standards. There's an endless amount of work to do. And if any of you are interested in joining us and you get too close to me, I will rope you in. But I'm passionate about volunteerism. I'm passionate about agrology, and it's a great honor to be part of this group. I've felt that since the first AGM and conference that I went to in Prince George back in 2007. And I'm just thankful for all the inspirational people that convinced me to participate. So thank you. I'd also like to thank Jessica for her years of service, and in particular, the last 2 years as chair. Both Jane and Jessica have been tremendous role models. And I know that I can do this job because Jessica's going to be there in the wings, and Jane's always a phone call away. So thank you. Thank you.
I said I wouldn't cry and I did. Honestly, this job just is never done. As Rebecca said, there's a lot coming up and this job is never done, and it's obviously very emotional. This has meant a lot to me to be in this position. So thank you. Okay. I can read. If there are no other questions, I would like to make it ask for a motion to adjourn. And there is a way to do this under Robert's rules. It's called sign and die. Adjourn, sign and die, which means at a date to be determined. But it will be held no later than June 30th to be in compliance with our bylaws. And the purpose of that meeting will be to receive, review, and approve the audited financial statements, which will, so you will have lots of time to review them and have your questions in. Oh, you're making the motion. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Seconder? No, we don't need a second. Sorry. All right. So the motion has been made to adjourn the 2022 annual general meeting, sign and die. Correct?
And then I have a few.
Okay. Even though if there's no second?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? But online.
And the yeses have it online as well,
Okay.
with one abstention.
Okay. The motion is carried. Before you go.
Just a couple of quick announcements about the field tours this afternoon. They will leave at 12:30. Theoretically, they're out here, but if you see them after last night, they're probably going to be in front of the hotel. There will be signs on each of the 3 buses delineating which goes to which of the field tours. There'll be just water and a few snacks on there, but so if you're hungry, you should probably grab a bite to eat before you get on there. They will bring you back to this hotel at approximately about 4:30. On that, one of the tours we do have is on the grasslands aspect, and there's a gentleman here that would like to sort of give you a little speech, pump up speech about the grasslands.
Grasslands, they're not just dry grass and sagebrush, so we thank you who are coming out this afternoon to look at them. But one thing I do have with our BC Grasslands, we put an annual magazine every year, and I'll bring a box along for those on the bus. But I do have some extras here. So for those who aren't going on the Grassland tour, if you would like to grab one of our BC Grasslands magazines, they look like this. And we're busy working on our 2023 edition right now. So look forward to seeing you this afternoon.
With that, brings us to the end of the 2023 conference and AGM. Thank you for everybody for coming out. It's nice to actually see real people in person. Hopefully, most importantly, we hope that you learned something new from the workshops yesterday. If not actual scientific knowledge, perhaps the role of empathy. That as we go forward, that we should emphasize as we do. Love to thank the board for all the work and support and trust they've given us, especially over the last 3 months with being down a couple of FTEs. It's been tough, and they've always been there to help us when we need them. Thank you for Kamloops, Nanaimo, although they don't speak much. they sure have colorful videos. But the convention center in Nanaimo is really nice. There's a brand new hotel just opened a month or so ago across the street, which will be our host hotel for that. But remember, because it's the land summit, there's 5 organizations. So book early, because the last land summit there was like 800 delegates. We don't expect that. We're budgeting for about 600, but still, if you want to be near the convention center, book early when it comes out, and we'll keep you informed on that. Other than that, this is an official online, and anything else anybody wants to talk to me about? Yes.
No more questions. We just had so many calls to say thank you to Jessica for her outstanding work over the years, and still more to come, of course, as board past chair. And also thank you to the board. A lot of kudos to the way the AGM is run this year with the hybrid. It's new to us all. So I just passing along all those thanks to everybody involved and to the Kamloops branch for putting it together.
Absolutely. The host committee, Ray and her people were great. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So have fun on the field tours, drive safe home. We'll see you again in a year, but the way things are going now, my phone, if I'm awake, I'll answer it. So if something comes up, especially on this reserve practice stuff, if somebody is not interpreting it the way that we do, call me and I'll take care of it. Thank you very much.